Okay, Emmy lovers, this is our first serious Emmy slugfest among the editors of Gold Derby, broadcast, by the way, from my new apartment in Los Angeles. Do you like it? I think you recognize that stuff over my shoulder there, my awards collection, but we won't go there. Where we're going to go is Best Comedy Actor, because that's where we have our most serious disagreement, I see. And Rob and Daniel and I know that this is in the bag for Jeffrey Tambor, but Ralph and Charlie have the audacity to disagree. And Ralph, we're going to come to you. What the hell are you thinking? William H. Macy is going to beat Jeffrey Tambor. Explain this to me.
It's easy, Tom. William H. Macy's on kind of a roll right now. He's coming off the SAG win, which Tambor didn't even get nominated for. His show is actually, it may be considered, people may have a problem with it being a little too dramatic, but the members seem to and let it stay in the comedy category. He's got some great tapes, and you yourself say it's about range, sympathy, and impact. And if he picks the right episode, he definitely has it. And he's actually funny in some parts where I've seen all of Transparent, and maybe if you mush together a few scenes that Tambor has through the whole span of the season into one episode, he'll be funny. But other than that, I don't think he's got a shot. But I do have Jim Parsons in second, at least.
Rob, let's set the record straight here. It's not about being funny, because a lot of people have given dramatic performances and have won here, and in comedy actress. Tambor has William H. Macy is this drunken character, low life, disgusting. I mean, Emmys are snobs. They're elitist snobs, and their vote has to feel important. And Tambor, with the whole transsexual topic now, nothing can be more important than that. In the aftermath of the whole Bruce Jenner thing, he won the Golden Globe. He's a veteran here, and he has the episode. If he's smart enough to submit episode 2, not episode 1, because he doesn't have much there. In episode 2, he's got 3 big speeches. How can he lose, Rob?
Yeah, no, completely. You just took the words out of my forget about the funny on this one, right? He gives the speeches in episode 2. You're totally right. When I saw episode 2, I was like, wow, this is amazing. You've also got the fact that he is a very well loved and respected, who has been nominated on many occasions, and he's really due for a win. He's also doing the whole transgender thing, which is really big right now, and he just freaking really good acting, and I think the actors are going to lap that up in the Academy, and he is such a lock for me. I can't imagine anyone else taking it away from him.
Okay, now all that said, Charlie, pipe in here and defend yourself, because what else Rob touched on here, which I failed to mention, is this is big acting. I mean, it's a big transformation of a famous person. It's like what we see at the Oscars, where Helen Mirren becomes, Queen Elizabeth, give her an Oscar, right? So, what are you thinking here?
Never underestimate the power of the Television Academy to disappoint.
Okay.
That is my.
And to go back to Jim Parsons automatically too. That's
why. I mean, come on. He's 1-4. What's stopping them? Nothing's stopping them on this one. And I haven't seen any of the Big Bang Theory this season. He'll probably have something he could submit that'll make the Emmy voters chuckle, and they'll check off his name again. I mean, for me, it's the old adage of expect the worst, so whatever happens.
But that is not a reliable Emmy prediction.
I'm telling you,
Doris Roberts
third
to base your prediction on.
Yes, 4 already. I do not see them backing away from this one. I would love to see.
I don't see him backing away from this. It's not.
Just you wait. You're going to be moaning when
Daniel. When you have a real justification for your prediction, Charlie, pipe back in. Meantime, we want to hear from Daniel here.
Well, I agree with Charlie in the sense that they love Jim Parsons. They love him a lot. But he looks at those 4 wins for Jim Parsons like Jim Parsons is invincible. Jim Parsons lost to John Cryer in this category. Remember? He's not unbeatable. They love him, and he'll be funny, and that often helps. But there are times where I don't think that the seriousness of Transparent is going to really hurt Jeffrey Tambor this year. It feels like he's this year's Edie Falco and Nurse Jackie, that freshman show. It's you know, a lot of attention, critical acclaim behind it. It's a cool show. It's a timely show. It's big acting. It's a transformation. You know, the SAG Awards didn't nominate him, but the SAG Awards mean bupkis when it comes to the Emmys, because the SAG Awards are always usually a year behind the Emmys in a lot of cases. They didn't nominate Homeland anywhere in Homeland's first season, and then it swept the Emmys that year. So SAG doesn't really mean anything. And he won the Golden Globes, but the Golden Globes don't really mean anything to Emmys either. It just feels like the hardest part for Transparent, I think, is going to be the fact that Amazon Prime, it's new. We don't know, you know, how, you know, they embraced Netflix, you know, the last couple of years. We don't know how they're going to react to Amazon Prime, which isn't quite as ubiquitous as Netflix is. So, you know, that'll be the big question. But even if it gets in nowhere else, I'd be pretty confident that Tambor gets nominated. And if he gets nominated, I think he's not safe to win. I mean, you never know, these weird people. But but I have no trouble, like, calling him the front runner at this point.
Somebody else pipe in.
You guys are using ridiculous things like he has speeches. Marcus Dixon isn't in this panel from what I can see here, so we shouldn't even be talking about speeches because the ridiculous speeches win Emmys. Last year we were all going for Ricky Gervais and Derek because he had heart, because it was great acting, because it was everything that you're saying that Tambor is this year. And he lost to a funny performance. Somebody that was drunk, that was doing funny things on his answering machine. That was Jim Parsons. So I think Charlie has a completely legitimate argument there that Jim Parsons could come in again and sweep it if he has a potentially funny tape. Tambor's just not funny. He's going to get in, but I mean, he'll have to have a killer tape in order to beat some of these people.
Yeah, like the thing is though. When we were all very smart, that was a smart argument to make. Like when Charlie and Ralph say that Jim Parsons could win again because he's funny and they love him, I actually really believe that that actually is a pretty valid argument to make because he's ridiculous. Like Jim Parsons won an Emmy for playing the bongos one year. Like it was that ridiculous. Like he didn't do much else apart from play it. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
That was the year he lost to Cryer.
There was another year where he kind of got up on stage, and I think that was his first Emmy or his second one, and he won for that as well. And so, all we're trying to say though at this early stage is that if we try to make some smart arguments, you can say they love Jim Parsons, and you can say Jeffrey Tambor is transformative, and he's very current, and he's overdue, and he gives a knockout performance, and he's heartfelt, and you want to give him a hug, and you want to do all those things. And so, those arguments I think hold a lot of water compared to debating this because they both hold water, but at this point, surely it would be wise to bet on Jeffrey Tambor because it's just such an amazing performance. Even though it's not laugh out loud. Silence.
Yes.
See, I have issues with using the overdue argument because we've used that for a lot of people in the past, and it's backfired so much. I mean, especially Steve Carell, when a bunch of us, you know, were thinking he was going to win for the final year of The Office, thinking he was overdue. It's another reason why I also, just on another category, I don't have John Hamm winning. I don't have John Hamm winning the drama actor category because I can't put that overdue factor in my head. And even though, yes, Jeffrey Tambor is overdue after many years with a lot of work on television, I think that there's going to be too much of a split within, you know, people thinking, okay, this is kind of dramatic but kind of funny also, and they're just going to go with Parsons again.
All right, well, that said, let's go to drama actor because, once again, I perceive a pattern here of reasonableness among Rob, Daniel, and Tom O'Neill on who's going to win, and we all say it's John Hamm. Not because he's overdue so much as I would say that he has the goods this time. He's got this very, very dramatic, reflective, long episode. It's the farewell season. I think, and he's got the elegance. He's got the elitism. He's got all those things going for him. Daniel, coming to you. Let's make the argument first for Jon Hamm winning, because Charlie and Ralph once again just dare to disagree with us. So Daniel, set them straight.
Well, I mean, they're not as crazy in this case. I mean, I have Jon Hamm in there. I don't feel as confident calling him front runner as I, feel calling Jeffrey Tambor front runner. It's sort of a wait and see. He'll probably submit the finale, and it is a good episode for him. It's not quite the suitcase, which he still lost for, but it's still good. And the thing that finally made me put him in first place was the fact that, I mean, we say the overdue factor isn't really a factor, and it never has been before, but this year we have to remember that Emmy voting is completely different. They are opening up those panels who are voting for these awards to, from like 60 to 70 people to as many people as want to vote in this category. We could have hundreds of people voting here, so we could see those outside factors coming in. People who want to vote for this just to check, just to mark Jon Hamm's name because they have to know, like we know, that he has never won, and this is his last chance. And even without, even without that change in voting, like remember that, when Jon Hamm had the suitcase, he lost to Kyle Chandler in Friday Night Lights. And Kyle Chandler's Friday Night Lights finale wasn't even as strong as the Mad Men finale is for Jon Hamm. So, even though the show's never won before, he's never won before. Without especially without Bryan Cranston in this race, it's sort of a toss-up. So I'm going with Jon Hamm for now.
I have right now. I have Bob Odenkirk at the top for Better Call Saul, immediately followed by Kevin Spacey, and then Jon Hamm. The problem is Jon Hamm has had the goods before. He's had the goods in the suitcase, and in other years where we saw a surprise, like the year 2 years ago. He had a great episode, the season 6 finale, where he kind of breaks down the boardroom during the Hershey's presentation, and he reveals all of his past, and everyone's horrified. But that was a great submission year. He lost to Jeff Daniels. He's had the goods and he's lost it before. It's going to be very tough for me to see him actually picking up a trophy, especially after he's had it and they just wouldn't give it to him.
Well, yeah, I see him kind of like Jane Kasmerick. Remember when she had that flashback episode and everybody thought she was going to win, and she was like a slam dunk, and it was between her and Deborah Messing, and then she lost, and then she kept getting nominated for each season of her show, and she never won. And same thing with Steve Carell. And if we're going to go on that notion that they're overdue, why doesn't anybody have Amy Poehler in the front options for Parks and Rec? Its last season, she's been a perceived front runner at times, but nobody's making this like big thing of all of us. Amy Poehler should be winning, and Amy Poehler should be a front runner. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's obvious. Yeah, I think that's obviously different because the Emmy voters have never liked Parks and Recreation nearly as much as they've liked Mad Men, and I don't discount the fact that Jon Hamm has had better submissions before and he hasn't won, but I think that's kind of an Emmy fallacy. The if you couldn't win for X, you won't win for Y argument, because it's different panels, it's a different group of nominees, it's different. People voting, potentially a larger group of people voting this time, so it's an entirely new playing field. I remember the first time Mariska Hargitay lost for SVU. She had this huge episode, Charisma, and everyone thought she'd win. She lost for that, and then she went and she won for 911, which I don't think was considered quite as strong an episode as Charisma was for her. So different year, different group of nominees, different panels. That particular argument, he couldn't win for those episodes, so he can't win for this one. I don't think that quite works here.
Yeah, I don't think that was an argument though. I think that was
my argument.
Oh, it was your argument? Oh, I thought it was more of just like an example, because
it was an example, but it's also I think especially when you consider the suitcase. When you consider where that episode ranks, it's with the advent of Mad Men ending, we had all these people putting out lists of their favorite episodes of Mad Men. Suitcase was always in the top 2. So I think that's on a different level in terms of rating them based on episodes. It's just I think there's something about the character that some of the voters that have been on these panels just have not responded to. And I'm not prepared at this point to say to predict that that these voters are finally going to come around. I mean, it is different years, different people, but I mean, we're just gonna have to wait and see on that one.
But I think you're right that the overdue factor is such a silly argument to make because we've seen it time and time again. We've been burned time and time again. Remember when Steve Carell was nominated that last season? There were so many stories to start at that point, and some of us started predicting and thinking that it was finally going to happen. Then it didn't. It was so disappointing. The same thing's going to happen this year. It's such a story that Jon Hamm has never won an Emmy, but even more so, it's such a story that the showrunners have been nominated across the board for years and years and years, and none of them have ever won. And of all of them to win, it should be Jon Hamm or perhaps maybe, I don't know, Christina Hendricks or Elizabeth Moss. But generally, Jon Hamm, he won. It's just going to be on and on and on. We're going to be hearing about it for days and days and days and days, and it may not happen again, fine, but I just can't bring myself to not put him in the top spot because I'm just willing it to happen. And that's a stupid argument right now because I just think, it's not about overdue. It's not about all these arguments about Mad Men never winning an acting Emmy. I just think his performance in the finale was really amazing. I loved it. I can't get it out of my head. And I'm hoping that, and I'm thinking that many of the voters in that particular panel will agree. And I'm looking at... Can hear you, Tom. Yeah, no problem. I reckon also if you look at his competition in the category, apart from maybe Odenkirk and perhaps maybe I don't know, like I don't think that there's anyone else that is so amazing. Like Terrence Howard's got a couple of really good ones. I don't think there's anyone else that is so amazing that Jon Hamm is going to really fight to get this trophy. I think that he's really up there compared to his competition. So that's the argument that I'm running with.
I've got to tell a very naughty story. When I saw Jon Hamm, a month and a half ago or whatever, what is it, this Mad Men event, you can see the video on YouTube. I asked him, what episode is he going to submit? And he said, looking forward, which one should we look to for being his Emmy submission? He said, I don't want to talk about this. We'll talk about that after the season's over. You tell me, because meaning Gold Derby's so good at this, right? So the night of the finale, Marcus and I were at the event downtown where the Ace Hotel Theater had this big event in conjunction with IFC, and it began with a table read of the finale of season 1, I believe it was, and Jason Reitman did it with some non-traditional actors, and then they showed the finale, and it's me and Marcus sitting there, Deborah Birnbaum from Variety, one of our pundits, and a bunch of other journalists, and and Jon Hamm, everybody's there, Matt Weiners, everyone's taking a bow and saying great, 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 great. As soon as it's over with, I dash down to get to the men's room before this onslaught, and I'm standing at the urinal next to Jon Hamm. All right, I've caught him literally. Yes, and he doesn't. I don't bother him at first. He doesn't know I'm there, and he starts tucking in that notoriously large member of his that the tabloids love to make fun of when it can be perceived through his trousers. So he's trying to tuck this in and dart back. Meanwhile, there's a stampede of guys trying to use the urinals, and he's lurching back. The stampede's coming there, sees me, and I said, John, that's you finally got the Emmy reel. And he goes, I do? And anyway, it was this really horrible moment. He's lurching. He's on one foot trying to zip up. He's falling back. There's this it was this mad scene. Finally, he kind of spins around, catches his balance, and then darts out and goes. And he didn't stick around for the party. He flew to Atlanta that night immediately. I think he was so traumatized by the event. Remember, he just got out of rehab recently, too. And then, so as he goes out, I come out of the men's room, and Marcus is standing there and says, I heard your conversation with Jon Hamm. I said, well, it wasn't much of a conversation. He agreed that was probably his Emmy reel, and that was that. Anyway, that's my big Jon Hamm story.
If there's some sort of scandal with that hotel where, they have cameras in the bathrooms, that hotel should submit that for the comedy series one. I think Jon Hamm could win for that.
He's going to win in the comedy guest category, isn't he, guys, for Kimmy Schmidt. That is this big flam. But he's going to get nominated based on name recognition. He's been nominated in that category for 30 Rock. This is this big flamboyant thing where he's this kooky evangelical minister, right? Who has a thought about that?
Yeah, he absolutely can win. I mean, when I watched the season of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, I watched and I thought, because he was funny on 30 Rock, he did a couple of things here and there, but he was nominated based on name recognition mostly, but he never really had the goods to really win it. This year, it's sort of the stars have aligned because the TV Academy is booting out those glorified supporting actors who are masquerading as guests. So now the pool is a bit thin for guest actor, and he comes in with this huge, flamboyant, hilarious performance in the later episodes of Kimmy Schmidt. It's he could absolutely win on merit. For that, it would be sort of odd, to see him win an Emmy this year for Kimmy Schmidt if he doesn't win for Mad Men. That will be his Emmy-winning role. But yeah, he absolutely has the goods to win that category.
I think Martin Short has a really good shot in that category too.
Yes.
I thought he was so great in his episode, and I think it'll be a very big crapshoot between the two. I have to see who else is in there. That's the one of the categories I haven't predicted, but Martin Short was the one that stood out for me for that one, and I think he would be. I think he's got a very solid chance for that wacky plastic surgeon he plays.
Yes. Let's go to drama series here. Once again, Ralph and Charles got the contrary notion. Charlie, just keep talking here. Game of Thrones, why now?
Why now? Because, I don't have a good answer for you, okay? So you can berate me for that, which you were going to probably do anyway. But it's just it's so tough because there is no clear front runner to me. I don't think Mad Men really is a huge front runner, though. I think I didn't feel like one of the things about this final season was that it just kind of felt aimless towards those first couple of episodes, and there didn't seem to be any sort of setup for what it was reaching towards with the finale, and I just don't see that as a winning season, especially when you look at the arcs of the other shows that have won this, including Mad Men for the past Emmys. It's the category to me, at least though right now, is so confusing and it's so wide open that I'm just uttering words at this point. I really don't know.
By default. All right. So Ralph, what's your rationale?
Real quick before we move on, people in the chat box are saying that we have the wrong link on the homepage to watch the video, so it keeps saying starting soon. And then Marcus said when you click on it, it actually brings you into our chat room, so you may want to change that on the homepage.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm clearing the cache right now. If they everybody try it now, it should be working. The correct video should be showing up on the homepage. I would just.
All right. Drama series Game of Thrones because it's great. I mean, we all got the first 4 episode screeners. They were all really, really good. There's really no big front runner this year. I mean, Mad Men, I watched the first 4 episodes and they're just so boring. And you have to pick 6, and they only had 7 this year. I mean, and the tally for it keeps going down or lower and lower and lower each year. I think if anything has a chance to, possibly beat Game of Thrones, it would be Orange is the New Black. I'm not sticking my head out for Mad Men at all this year.
All right, so those, Daniel, you actually agree with them. Why?
Yeah, it just feels, this year's sort of a crapshoot. The last few winners of Best Drama Series, Breaking Bad is gone. Homeland, it won before that, but, even though I think it had a sort of a creative resurgence, I don't think it's going to win again. It could even be snubbed, from the category entirely. And then there's Mad Men, which won 4 times, and it could win again. I mean, we saw that happened to The Sopranos. It won for its 5th season. Then, a couple of years later, it won for its final season. But I think there was still a sense that The Sopranos had still, even though it won only once for Best Drama Series, it was still under-rewarded given the stature of that show. Whereas Mad Men has won 4 times, and unlike The Sopranos, has been on a steady decline with Emmy voters. So I think Mad Men could pick up some wins, especially for that finale, maybe writing or directing, or John Hamm, as we talked about. But I think the ship has sailed for Mad Men on drama series. I don't think they have any sense that they need to reward it again, and I don't think those 7 episodes had quite the cultural heft as, say, the last Breaking Bad episode.
Come on! Wait, they didn't have the culture. What cocoon are you living in? First of all, let me.
You made Tom go falsetto.
Let me explain something to you. The reason that Breaking Bad won last year is it was partly a farewell hug, of course, but also it was a case of where it felt important. It was TV history. It was moving on. Now I realize Mad Men has won nothing in the last couple of years. 0, 0, 0. These goose eggs. And in fact, it holds the record now as the biggest loser of all time. But wherever you go here in Hollywood now, this is the only thing people talk about is Mad Men. When I called on Friday, for example, FX Network and Fox, 20th Century Fox TV production, etc. The conversation wasn't about their own shows. It was Mad Men, how magnificent the finale was. This town is buzzing now. I realize this may not be the buzz in general America, but that doesn't matter now because this is a cocoon here. This is the world they live in. This is a very important show. Keep in mind how important. This is the first non-pay cable channel to sweep the Emmys, AMC's Mad Men. This is historic. We had The Sopranos and we had Sex and the City win as cable shows in top Emmy categories before this, but this was a breakthrough for basic cable, which is basically what we all watch today as the whole streaming threat comes on. This isn't just any show. This is the elitist show that fits all the criteria that they normally vote for. And there are precedents of shows like The Sopranos is a good example. Everybody Loves Raymond on the comedy side, LA Law back on the drama side, of where shows have won, stepped out, and came back and won again. And I think there's nowhere else to go this year. I mentioned that the night of the finale that I was sitting next to Deborah Birnbaum from Variety, and she has Mad Men #1. I just put Mad Men #1 in the last 35 minutes over House of Cards. I may switch back. And we can talk about House of Cards in a second, but there is something special, there is something important, and there's this feeling that Mad Men nailed it beautifully. They gave us, real art as a farewell. And so, like Everybody Loves Raymond, like Breaking Bad last year, like The Sopranos, there is this feeling that of the farewell hug to shows that are exceptional. And keep in mind that since the year 2000, when the Emmy voting has taken place almost as a popular vote with at-home voting, that you no longer are sitting in a chair in a hotel room with monitors standing around, making sure you've seen the sample episode that was submitted. Not they watch it, they don't watch it, and popularity take over, and buzz matters. And there is no show at all on the comedy or drama side in this town right now that matters more or is more respected, beloved, and people are in awe of than Mad Men. And I just think you're not seeing it here, and this is an industry town, an industry award, and you need to keep that in mind. If the vote took place right now, Mad Men would win by a landslide. The question is, how long can that buzz last?
Tom, your speech right now was more exciting than any episode Mad Men had in the first half of its season.
Well, obviously you didn't see the finale. You didn't see the finale. The finale was brilliant. Brilliant.
If you want to talk buzz, Orange is the New Black comes out June 12th, and it is going to get tremendous buzz, and that's going to keep going and going and going, and that's going to be a show that is still popular, that it's still buzzed about around town, and that could be something.
But it's about a bunch of thuggish chicks in jail. It's not, doesn't have the elitist appeal. Look, there is one exception, Breaking Bad, to the rule of elitism at the Emmys. That's it. The only other exception is Picket Fences when you go way back. Otherwise, it's the most sophisticated, Tony, polished, beautiful, upscale show that always wins. And you could argue that Picket Fences had that cachet. Right, Mr. Lawyer?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, we just quickly talk about Mad Men because I'm still so wowed by that finale. I'm telling you, I can't get it out of my head. I'm actually rewatching the first few episodes of the first season because I just want to relive how beautiful that show is and was. But Ralph's right. There's a whole chunk of episodes towards the beginning of the season where I was just thinking to myself, what are they doing? This is so boring. It's not what. There's nothing's happening.
No, that's true. I agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the feeling's really strong for Mad Men right now, but I think it's just there's a lot of goodwill and love for the show because it's gone and we miss it, and I think that's going to disappear.
But disappear for what? For what? It's not going to be Orange is the New Black. They're not going to vote for John.
Why not House of Cards? I don't think Game of Thrones is there because although the first couple of episodes really wowed me, I'm actually starting to get a bit.
Rob, you're breaking up here. You're breaking up. Let me stop you. Because we can't hear you.
Okay.
All right. Let's go to.
I just got to say one thing really quickly. I think there's one show that we've left out of the conversation. We mentioned House of Cards, but let's not forget Downton Abbey. The show had a good creative resurgence this season. I don't see any evidence of it backing off. I have it in number 2 right now. That one needs to be in people's conversations as well because the Emmys have shown time and time again that they still love this show. And even though the awards in Britain aren't as crazy about it anymore, the Emmys here are still absolutely nuts about it.
Well, Gold Derby wasn't last year. We didn't predict it was going to get nominated. Of course, it did, and now I just put it back in my predictions. I kicked out The Affair in the last hour. But Rob is the only person who's saying House of Cards. Let's make the House of Cards argument here, why that could actually win, and that is voters had nowhere to go last year but to Breaking Bad. There would have been riots in the streets in LA if they hadn't gone to that. And we're entering a U.S. presidential election right now. We know that they like their drama series to feel important. That show really feels important. I don't think it's as good in season 3 as it was in season 2, which was, I think, a spectacular. And season 1 was good, but season 3 was still fine. I could see House of Cards winning. Now, I know none of you are predicting it, but Daniel, where do you have House of Cards?
I have it ranked 3rd. I sort of have my top 3, sort of mashed together in this, uncertain nebula of one of them could win. It definitely, if the snob appeal factor, is a factor, and we know that it often is, usually is. House of Cards is definitely a place to go to, instead of Mad Men. It feels important. It's revolutionary in the sense that it has the Netflix connection. Netflix still hasn't won a top series award, and they're producing more dramas and comedies these days than a lot of networks. And it just sort of the only problem with it, I don't have it ranked higher, is because it aired in February, premiered in February. It feels like it was a long time ago. It didn't really ignite the public discussion.
Right. I agree with that.
Other shows did, including Orange is the New Black and Game of Thrones, which I have in 1 and 2. I'm not entirely confident, but I think those two are going to have more heat going into the Emmys. And Game of Thrones is actually in this weird sweet spot of its 5th season, and we saw, The Sopranos was an unconventional winner that won in its 5th season. 24 was a genre show; it was like a spy thriller, won in its 5th season. So, it could have that 5th season luck, especially with Breaking Bad swept out. There's now this vacuum at the top of this category.
I agree that could happen. Yeah.
Do we? And let's not forget, Tom. Tom, you yourself told Marcus and I that this year a really, I guess, a big change for the Emmys because of the way voting is going to go now. How voting is going to open up more, and there are more members allowed to vote in certain things, in certain areas. And I know everybody can vote in this, but what about something? If we're talking popularity, what about something like Empire? Does that have?
Well, that's where I want to go. I wonder. It is the big breakout drama show of the year, of course. It is very cheesy and melodramatic. They usually don't respect shows like that. I think it definitely gets nominated because of the new process of voting. Remember that it used to be that people would rank their 5 back in those days nominees for best drama series or comedy series, but now they check off 10. So when you get a ballot, you're actually told you check off 10 titles, and then they do the math, and then of course now this top 7 will get nominated, maybe the top 8 or even 9 if the 2% rule kicks in. But so Empire gets in. If you got 10 things, it was the hot new show of the year. It's in. Once in, and with this wild card of the new voting, as you're mentioning, Ralph, yeah, I would love to see it happen. It would just be fantastic. It's really a brilliant show if you show due respect for its camp quality and its melodrama and the tradition of Dallas and Dynasty and those shows that had come before, which let's show respect to those genres when writing in that language, when reinventing that genre. This show has done a brilliant job of it. Who else thinks Empire can win?
I don't. I think it'll be nominated. I think it feels sort of it's a completely different kind of show, obviously, but it feels sort of like this year's Heroes. It's the show, the big hit everyone's talking about. It's not the show that
this is not here. Heroes is for a bunch of Silicon Valley nerd types. No, this Empire is for us old fogies like me.
I'm not saying they appeal to the same audience. I'm saying neither of them would normally appeal to the Emmy audience, and they're sort of too big to fail in terms of getting nominated. You can't really ignore them for the impact they had. I don't think they don't really take soap operas seriously when voting for the winners. They didn't give it to Grey's Anatomy when that show was at its hottest. They, in the comedy category, they didn't give it to Desperate Housewives when that show was at its hottest.
Sure.
I can see it winning. Taraji P. Henson could win, Best Drama Actress, or something like that. But I don't think they're going to take it seriously enough to win, even with the new style of voting.
I think it's so wide open this year. Anything is possible, and an Empire win is not that far fetched for me.
It's very upscale. It's about the showbiz industry.
They do like that.
They do like that.
But it doesn't seem quite as important. It doesn't have that sense of importance that Mad Men has and that House of Cards has. That campy style, I think, will probably work against it when picking the winners.
That may be
But Empire brought back network television. I mean, nobody had any faith in it until Empire came back and built those ratings and an audience and showed that a series on network TV could still work when everything Emmy was or is cable and pay cable. So I think it's got an importance in the industry with that. But you're right, it may be a little too out there for most.
Part of me is wondering, are there some people in the Academy that still think Fox really isn't a network? Even though this is on Fox.
Right.
Well, Fox has won more Emmys for Best Drama and Comedy Series than Netflix, so...
That's very true.
Yeah.
Okay, comedy series. We all have Modern Family by default because it feels important and there's nowhere else to go, right? Rob, let's try your internet connections again. Give us your view here.
Okay. Hopefully you can hear me now, but yeah, Modern Family is in the first spot because it's just by default, which pains me because I don't think it should win number 5. I've stopped watching it now. I think I've enough, and I'll leave but here's the problem. What else is there? Because I think Veep's having a strong season. I know Ralph and some of you don't agree with me. I think Veep should be winning that. Or maybe even Kimmy Schmidt, which actually makes me laugh. Wow, what a surprise. Let's vote for a show that's funny. We'll talk about Jeffrey Tambor. He's not very funny. But in this category, what's the funniest? Maybe that should win for a change. That would be a really nice thing to happen.
Chris Beecham has Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt up for number 1. And who's got his comment that he emailed to us? If somebody can pull it up. I asked him, he couldn't join us on the chat. I asked him to defend his prediction. And basically what he says is indefensible. I don't see it happening. Here's why I don't. And Kimmy Schmidt is my favorite new comedy of the year. Go ahead.
Okay, so his actual comment is the run for Modern Family will end eventually. They've certainly got enough exceptional episodes this season to win again, but voters might be tired of them winning. Not certain, but it is possible this time, especially in a year where they would break the all-time series record. Underlined, he says, if and only if that is the case, they will be looking for something funny. Big Bang Theory is probably too old at this point. The Comedians doesn't seem to be latching on like I thought. Then you move along to somewhat more dramatic shows like Veep and Transparent. I'm going to put on my Chris Beecham accent for this last part. So how about Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt from one of the certifiable Emmy favorites, Tina Fey? The show is laugh out loud funny. It's charming, sunny, and very optimistic. I have no doubt it will be nominated for both writing and directing. Titus Burgess could easily win his supporting category if nominated. So could John Hamm as a guest actor. Even Ellie Kemper has a shot.
Love it.
Here's what's wrong with that argument. Is the Emmys, especially in this top category, I mentioned it a minute ago, are now skewing more of a popular vote than ever before. There is nobody who is voting for Best Drama or Comedy Series who's sitting down watching 14 episodes of, 2 for each nominated series, right? Randomly distributed to the Academy. Nobody's watching all those episodes. When you task a jury of actors to evaluate one sample episode from the 6 nominees, my experience from just observation and from talking to them in this town is that they do it. But when you overwhelm them that way with that responsibility, they don't bother and they just kind of vote for what is the popular choice. And that's why I think that Kimmy Schmidt isn't seen enough. There is a lot of great buzz for it. It's that everyone's special little show that they discovered this year and they love, and except for Ralph, but Ralph's opinion never matters. But Ralph, I think that Veep is interesting. Rob, yes, I don't think it's as good as its first few seasons, but I do think it's still good enough that in this election season that's beginning now, it feels all the more important. She is President of the United States. She is screwing it all up, and she is so beloved and respected. I think that it's very possible that Veep is where they could go if they stray. But for the time being, I'm simply saying they're not going to stray. Ralph, now that I picked on you, pipe in here.
I think Veep has veered too dramatic this season. There haven't really been many funny moments for me, so I don't think it can. And Kimmy Schmidt, I know you guys love it, but it doesn't seem like Netflix is really behind it. They haven't had one event for Kimmy Schmidt this season. They've had one for Derek, the movie. They've had 2 now for Grace and Frankie. They've had one for House of Cards, for Bloodline. Everything except for that show. I don't know why they're not backing that show. But after going to the Modern Family event on Monday again to a packed house, it was a great event once again, and the finale was so good. You have to slap together 6 episodes that appeal to a broad mass of people. I don't think there's anything. There's really no There's only hate for Modern Family because it has won so much, but I don't think that bothers.
Right. That didn't hurt Daily Show when they were winning for the 10th and 11th. Right.
Exactly.
It just doesn't matter. You're right. It completely doesn't matter. And
you people are ripping on me for my Parsons prediction. Screw you.
By the way, Ralph, that's not that they're not.
That's the problem.
Go ahead, Ralph.
No, I was just going to say they're right, and we're always in denial about this. This happens watch the videos from last year, the year before, and the year before, and the year before. We're always in denial about how the Emmys love to repeat themselves and they're the safe choices. They do it all the time, and we hate it because we like a bit of drama, we like a bit of intrigue, and it never bloody happens. And in comedy, I would like to see Veep win, and if it gets supporting actor and Julia Louis-Dreyfus and a few others, then we're all going to say Veep is going to be the other choice that they go to if they don't want to give Modern Family number 5, because there's nothing else. But it happened that way. They love repeating themselves. It's been happening for decades. And so, unfortunately, in comedy, there's not much else. There might be Kimmy Schmidt, but I think Veep is probably the most likely to unseat Modern Family. I think that's what we're trying to establish. What is that one other show?
One show that is being left out of this argument is Silicon Valley. I think this second season is just as strong as the first one. Tom, don't start shaking your head because this show got in last year. And it got nominated for writing and directing. This show is just as good as it was last season.
I agree with that. Just as bad as it was last season.
All right. Well, I will sick T.J. Miller on you later, but that's beside the point. I think the show is just. I think the show it just has a good cast to it, and I think that it. I still have Modern Family #1, but if any show could upset, I actually think it's Silicon Valley.
Oh, God.
It's a group of male nerds like Entourage, like that's essentially the chemistry of Big Bang, if you don't count what's her name.
Yeah, but it doesn't have as much of a douchey quality as Entourage has.
Oh God, it's so totally douchey. Oh.
Yeah,
Like,
it
you can
definitely
understand why they're so desperate to get laid because they're nerds. It's like, okay, I understand that. Whereas with Entourage, it's like, it's like you want to scream at the women, stop sleeping with these losers.
Yeah. Okay.
And on Silicon Valley, you want to scream at the women, keep not sleeping with these guys, because it's the same kind of dude bro kind of,
Yeah, but they're actually making something. They're starting a business, and it's interesting to watch and look at all the hurdles that they're having to jump through, which is where a lot of the comedy derives from. And there have just been some great moments this season that are just great comedy moments, whether it's from the second episode, the mariachi band playing out the second episode during the closing credits, which if you haven't seen it, you're probably all looking at me like, what the hell is he talking about? But it's a hilarious, funny scene. A lot of the scenes with I don't know the actor's name, but the one who plays Gavin Belsom, the head of the rival company that's trying to stop Pied Piper, he has some of these great comedic scenes this year. I think it's really one to watch out for, especially since we have now seen that the Emmy voters actually respond to it.
Well,
I totally agree, and I think it's great. And I know Tom doesn't like it. It's your version of Kimmy Schmidt, Tom. So I completely respect it, and I'm glad you're being kind to it, because I was kind to Kimmy Schmidt just a while ago. But the show, I mean, yeah, it's HBO, and it does have that Big Bang thing or Big Bang Theory going for it, but it ups its game because it has that more snob appeal, because they are just trying to get this thing off the ground and get rich, and that's what I would imagine every Emmy voter loves is getting rich and money and producing these things. So I think Charles is right. I just don't think I think it's just at the end of the day we're all arguing over nothing, because Modern Family is not going to be beat. Sorry, Daniel.
Opera Junkie says my dog is funnier when he craps in Silicon Valley. Thank you, Tony.
I want to see that dog crap, because that's going to be a fun.
Yeah, that's a funny crap.
He's saying that.
I'm with Tom and the dog on this one.
All right.
I'm just
predicted Silicon Valley would be nominated last year. I predicted that would happen. It's not my cup of tea personally. But neither is Veep. I think Veep is actually the one to watch out for. I think honestly, I have Modern Family in my #1 slot by default. Unless all these other shows crater. If there's one show that, if Veep keeps moving up in nominations as it has in the last 3 seasons, I'm gonna predict it. If there feels like a pendulum shift somewhere, I'm gonna predict it. I'm really nominations day. I'll be surprised if I'm still predicting.
All right, 2 other shows.
I just have to just put one last thing about this comedy series thing. I was trying to think of what could stop Modern Family. And the only thing I could think of is if someone from the show, or if the creator goes on some racist, bigoted, anti-Semitic rant. You have to put all those in there. Probably make fun of fat people too. But even then, I still think it would win. That's the crazy thing.
I know. Yeah. It's almost impossible to take down. In the chat room, they're talking about 2 alternatives. One is Ralph's favorite, Jane the Virgin. The other one is Mom, which picked up some Emmy love last year. What about either one of those guys piping in? Let's start with Jane the Virgin. Ralph, that's your show.
My show, I would actually put would be the Goldbergs in there. I think if the Goldbergs get into this race, they would win. They could actually beat up Modern Family. But yeah, I mean, Jane the Virgin, you yourself said it, Tom. It just doesn't really appeal. I mean, you're talking about a girl that takes a bus. I'm not sure if Emmy voters really know what a bus is, except for something that holds artwork on the side and drives through Hollywood. But so I don't think it's. I mean, the CW. I mean, we have experts that are predicting it to get nominated, which is great. But just don't know if they would pay attention to the show enough to give it a chance, which is unfortunate because it actually is a really good show. And the other one, Mom. I love Mom. I thought it had an incredible season. But again, I think it's really just a show built on Allison Janney and Anna Faris, who I think is pretty underrated. But it wouldn't get much more than that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
With Mom underwhelming so much last year, with the exception of Allison Janney, I mean, With all these other factors in there, it seems kind of hard for it to see. It's kind of hard to see it actually getting in there.
Okay, so
I could
Ralph,
see it getting nominated but not winning.
Ralph, that said, are you still standing by your prediction that your buddy Gina Rodriguez gets not only nominated but wins Comedy Actress?
You know it, Tom. You saw my predictions. I have her #1 still, even after you.
I know why that is. That is when I've been at events with you. It's you and Gina hanging out at the wine bars together here in Hollywood. You are easily bought. Your prediction is admitted.
I'm bought. You're the one who was peeing with John Hamm, and all of a sudden you're going to win an Emmy.
Oh my God! You'll never live that down, man. Never.
I do. I have her in. I have her. She is the it girl right now, and you said yourself after she won the Globe, she gave a great speech. I think she's going to win the Critics Awards, probably give another great speech, and I think the Critic Award will actually give her more momentum into the nomination phase. And if she can get nominated with the pilot, I don't think she can be beat.
The pilot's pretty great, and it's a fantastic show. But you're right. I don't think they're watching it. But if it gets nominated, she can get in. But I don't think it gets nominated. Rob, this is all about Julia Louis-Dreyfus again, isn't it? Can anybody beat her? Maybe. I think Jane Fonda, who a lot of you don't even have on your list. Shame on you. Rob, you don't even have Jane Fonda on your list. Do you realize? Did you see the pilot of Grace and Frankie? She could win with that.
She's really good in that, Tom. This category is really difficult for me because I had to knock someone out because I just honestly believe that Amy Schumer is a threat here to be nominated, and I think Lily Tomlin is really funny in Grace and Frankie. We haven't talked about that show much. I don't know how it's going to do. I'm really not sure how Grace and Frankie is going to go, but I think Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, Lisa Kudrow in The Comeback blew my mind. I thought she was amazing. The first 2 episodes were rubbish, and then by the end of that series, I was gobsmacked. Her acting is so good in that, and she's so funny. She should be winning. I think Melissa McCarthy is also a real threat. We always discount her. I know she won, and people think it's because of Bridesmaids. I think it's because she had the best episode. She's been nominated again when she wasn't that hot in Bridesmaids. I think she's easily nominatable, if that's even a word, again. And this category is so stacked. It's so stacked. I don't have Gina Rodriguez. I don't have Jane Fonda. And so that I could have 8 nominees in there because they're all definite. And I have Edie Falco in there because she's always nominated for Nurse Jackie. If you've watched Nurse Jackie this season, you can see that really, really good in it this time.
But you're right. Melissa McCarthy was nominated last year again. That's kind of a perennial. And Lisa Kudrow could win with the final episode of The Comeback because it's set at the Emmys, and she's an Emmy nominee, and it's utterly brilliant, right, Daniel?
Yeah.
I haven't caught up on The Comeback, but she could get in for that. I remember she was nominated for the first season. The show obviously wasn't a huge hit, and it was canceled originally by HBO. She was still nominated. The Emmys love her. She won for Friends. She has this. I think she's in this position that Laura Dern was in a couple of years ago with Enlightened. Critics love her. It's this underdog show on HBO, and she could sneak in there with a nomination. Given that she obviously has Emmy history. But I don't have her in my top 6. But it's so tough, this category. The hard part isn't necessarily figuring out who's getting like those last 2 or 3 slots, like in a lot of categories. For me, other than Julia Louis-Dreyfus in my #1 slot, I could make a case for any of the other women falling out or getting in. I mean, like, no one is a lock for even a nomination, I think. Except for Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So, I can see Edie Falco, she keeps getting in, but she could fall out. I don't know if there's still going to be a lot of enthusiasm, even though this is the final season. Amy Poehler could fall out. They haven't always been into Parks and Recreation. And then we've got a bunch of newcomers that we don't know how they're going to treat, like Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt and Grace and Frankie, and, Inside Amy Schumer is on the rise, but is it on the rise enough? So this is a category where, honestly, Julia Louis-Dreyfus is the only one who can consider herself safe for a nomination at least. And then the winner, is where Julia Louis-Dreyfus can be in trouble, because that's where a lot of women could beat her. Gina Rodriguez, if she gets in, she could win with an episode. Ellie Kemper could win. Jane Fonda can win. Lily Tomlin can win. Amy Schumer can win.
I don't think Ellie could win. I didn't see it as much as I love that show, and you know, in our little round robin emails where we all talk to each other and yell at each other in capital letters all the time. As much as I love that show, I did not find an episode that is winning here for her.
I think she had a couple. I think she had at least one or two. I remember there was one episode closer to the end of the season where she, I can't remember the rest of the context of the episode, but she has this scene with Jane Krakowski near the end of this episode where she's trying to give her this pep talk, and she comes out to her as being one of the mole women, and it's this big, we see, Kimmy Schmidt is kind of this, born yesterday kind of naive girl, and she has this gritty and really inspirational outlook that she gives Jane Krakowski in that scene. And I just remember that episode, and I thought, okay, that's a tape. That could be a moment for her. So I don't know if it's enough, but that's a potential one. And she has the laugh out loud to go along with it. She's going to have the impact and the range.
Charlie, have you been watching Veep this season?
Yes, I have. I've been keeping up with that and Silicon Valley.
Okay. Veep. I haven't seen a Julia Louis-Dreyfus winning episode yet. Have you?
Not that I can remember, but then again, I didn't see Crate as a winning episode last year when it aired, and it was only towards the final days of the Emmy cycle that I finally put her at number one, because I had McCarthy at number one for the longest time. So I don't. We may have to just wait, and I'm going to have to wait and see on that one. But right now, I have not seen one that I would say is a standout, Emmy episode for her.
Right. We're talking, Ralph. We lost a minute there. We're talking about Julia Louis-Dreyfus and her. Crate and her other past winning episodes were always very sympathetic and very funny, even though her character is such a bitch. But she's a real bitch this year. I don't see any endearing, many endearing turns for her. Are you up on Veep, Ralph?
I am. Aside from that first episode where she has her prompter goes out during her speech, or they put the wrong one up there.
Right.
Aside from that one, she's been just awful this season. I mean, I don't mean as an actress. I mean as a person. Selena Meyer has just been awful this season. I think it's funny that everybody points out that the two best episodes for Anna Klumsky and for Tony Hale are ones that are where they actually go off on Selena, where they go off on Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character and tell her what an awful person she is. I mean, those are the ones that we're saying they should send in to for Emmy consideration, which means that anything that's telling this woman how horrible she is would make a great Emmy tape, which just kind of shows you, I guess, that she's just worse this year than she has been in the past as president. So I don't think she has anything sympathetic. I mean, nothing huggable, and that's what you have to win an Emmy, right? You have to be huggable.
At least there has to be some redeeming moments, and she really doesn't have that. The writing is just off all season. I'm going to give you an example. It popped up to mind the other day where, remember the episode where it's revealed that it had something to do with a special needs child.
No, child with HIV?
Yes. And they brought that how they mishandled the gathering of the information about the kids and the families or something, and it was just some horrible. And then they didn't use it for some kind of comic. They didn't bring it back later in the episode for some kind of redeeming twist or some big reveal, or they didn't tie it up. It was just left there, many.
With that, I think that might be something that might come back later in the season, though.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something you got to watch for. Like they did that with Silicon Valley, where they're panicking because they're losing their funding, and they go to that one business and they have them actually illustrate out the algorithm of how he compiled his thing. And in the most recent episode, we saw, okay, this company actually stole it from them, and now they're using it. So it may be something that pops up again later in the season.
I'm not up on Nurse Jackie. Is anybody here? I don't know if Edie Falco has a winning episode. Have you seen a winner this year?
There is no. I don't recall one because I saw the screeners that Showtime gave us, and Showtime gave us all but the last two episodes. and there wasn't one that was that to me stuck out for Edie Falco. I'll tell you who does have an episode though. Merritt Weaver. She has an episode.
Really? All right.
If she can get back in, oh man, she can win. She can win and and not a shock win. This is one that is completely checks off all the boxes. She's great in. It's the 8th episode of the season. I don't think that's aired yet. I think that's going to air next month.
Okay.
It's so funny that that Merritt Weaver has the year she won. She's always been good on the show, but the year she won, we were all surprised. And then the next year, the season that aired last year, I thought she was amazing. She could win again. She had an episode last year that could have been competitive, and she wasn't even nominated. And now, I'm not caught up on Nurse Jackie yet. It's one of the shows that I'm definitely going to get to soon. Merritt Weaver, has just had this. It's like, she won the Emmy, and the writers realized she was on their show.
That happens very often. All right, so we don't know what's going to happen there. We have the dangling episodes that are allowed to come in after June 1st, so we haven't seen what's coming up for Julie Dreyfus, etc. She could pull this off, of course. I think Lisa Kudrow has a winning episode. I think Amy Schumer certainly does, if they take this kind of skit comedy good. And I think Jane Fonda absolutely does. Lily
Tomlin also does, too.
She does. Later in the series, she does, yeah.
Like the earthquake episode, I thought was pretty good for her.
I like the one where she's maybe it's only the 3rd or 4th episode in where she's by the fire on the beach with Jane Fonda, and Fonda's saying, "Aren't you mad at your husband? Aren't you mad?" And she gives a little talk about she feels sorry for him and her heart aches for him, and it was wonderful. Talk about empathy. Very
That's
powerful.
actually also the pilot. So that
No.
Jane Fonda. Yeah, it is.
Isn't that the one? Isn't that the one where she gets her high and Jane Fonda's high on the beach?
Yeah,
on
where they're both
peyote.
high on the beach on peyote, and that's right
Yeah.
after they found out. Yeah, that was the first episode.
Yeah, that's a great one for Fonda.
Oh.
That's great. Yeah, it's great for both.
And the thing about Lily Tomlin is that the Emmys love her more than Jane Fonda. Like, Jane Fonda has won an Emmy, but Lily Tomlin's won like 6. She is TV Emmys royalty. So even if Jane Fonda has the slightly showier performance, they might still go with Lily Tomlin. I mean, it's sort of reminiscent of Felicity Huffman in Desperate Housewives. She did not have the showiest performances of those women who were nominated, except maybe in Marcia Cross's submission. But I think she had the most Emmy love, the most Emmy respect, and TV cachet. So I think Lily Tomlin could benefit from that this year.
I think just if we're on Grace and Frankie, I think if he can get in, Martin Sheen also has a couple good episodes too.
Yes, I haven't seen the whole season. Paul was telling me that he thinks he could win. Martin Sheen could win.
Yeah. Did you see the funeral episode where they have to go to the funeral of a mutual friend? That's the episode I think he could win with.
Hey Tom, speaking of, how do you think Grace and Frankie is going to do at the Emmys? Do you think it gets in for comedy series at all?
It certainly could. It certainly hits the demographic of the Academy in terms of the voter base. I'm just not sure that it's widely seen enough. And this is where the popular vote comes in. But yet, when they're checking off 10 comedies, maybe so. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think I agree with you that I think it hits that kind of voter demographic, and I think Netflix seems to be pushing it pretty hard. But because it's only comedy. I mean, Netflix has that and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. One of them has to get in for them to kind of hold that slot. And I don't know. I guess it just depends on which one's more popular.
And by the way, Ralph, it's not that Netflix is not supporting Kimmy Schmidt. They were running ads at Gold Derby and across all the media sites for Emmy consideration very early on that show. I'm not sure we're up on all the events at the TV Academy and elsewhere. I'm sure they've done something and are doing some forms of outreach, and we'll be doing stuff with them too. But it's in the running, and they know it.
One thing that I wanted to ask about Grace and Frankie was it eligible for the Critics' Choice Awards? Did it air? Did it was that eligible for that? Because it didn't get anywhere on there, and Kimmy Schmidt only got one nomination, and that was for Titus Burgess. And I know that with the Critics' Choice Awards that you can't put too much stock in it, but I thought Kimmy Schmidt was supposed to be the critics' darling. Was supposed to be one of those shows that was very well received by critics. So the fact that it wasn't, that it only got that one nomination, kind of worries me. Kind of worries me for its Emmy chances.
That was surprising at Critics' Choice, yeah.
Drama actress. Let's wrap things up here. Viola Davis.
Sure.
Is this just hers? Daniel, who's going to win that?
I have Viola Davis in first place, but she does not. It's not a slam dunk. She has great episodes to submit, but this is gonna depend a lot on the lineup of this category, because there are a lot of women with episodes that could win. Taraji P. Henson could win. Ruth Wilson could win. Lizzie Kaplan, who was nominated last year, who most of us are discounting. She has like a two-hander episode with Michael Sheen in season 2 of Masters of Sex. That could win. Taylor Schilling could win. She has a season premiere episode. Terrific showcase for her. So Viola Davis, I don't, the biggest thing working against her, I think, is that I don't see that there's going to be a lot of love for that show besides her. Maybe Cicely Tyson, maybe it gets in for something like casting. I don't think it'll get in for probably drama series or writing or directing. So that could work against her if there's not a lot of overall support for the show. But yeah, there are a lot of women in this race who, this is going to be probably the most exciting race depending on the lineup.
First of all, you're wrong about Empire not getting into the other top races. That's insane.
Oh no, How to Get Away with Murder not getting into the other top races.
I see. Okay, yes, okay. Now, Charlie, you've got Juliana Margulies winning again. She's won twice here before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she has some great episodes to submit, and like Daniel was saying, this category is. I think it's really interesting how we were complaining about at the Oscars this year that the lead up to the Best Actress nominations was so dull, and that we really there might have been it's kind of bit of a surprise with Marion Cotillard getting in, but it was really it was so dull. But with this one, both the comedy and drama actress categories are so stacked with amazing people and their performances that it's really a crapshoot what's going to happen at this point. And so back to Margulies, I think she has several tapes that she could win with, but at this point it's so stacked and wide open, it's anybody's guess. And I wouldn't be surprised to see someone who I don't have in there getting nominated and winning, someone like Taylor Schilling or Ruth Wilson.
And let's not forget Vera Farmiga. She was amazing this season, and Tom wrote her a special episode that was just absolutely killer. If she gets in there, she's definitely got a tape to win. But I think if Taraji P. Henson goes with the pilot, with all that's surrounding her and such a big impact that she's had culturally and not just with Empire, I think, or the Cookie has had, I think she's definitely the one to beat. I don't buy the Viola Davis stuff. I know everybody's like, stroking her ego and everything, but I don't think she's that lock of a win just because she takes off a hairpiece at the end of an episode.
I'm not even sure that's her best episode. Like, I know that's one of her most iconic, memorable moments of the series, but so far. But I don't think thinking back to the rest of that episode, I don't think the case of that week is that necessarily her strongest. I think she has another episode later down the line where she's arguing this death penalty case, and she's trying to save this guy from death row, and she gets the James Spader style fireworks in those courtroom scenes. So I think one of those episodes might even work better for her than the wig scene, because I have to watch that episode again in its entirety, but I don't remember there being a lot for her to do in that episode besides the wig scene.
Do you think that this controversy with Margulies, Tom, could hurt her?
Oh no, the feud business. No, nobody. They love all that stuff. Charlie, I'm interested by your number 2 prediction here. Claire Danes in Homeland. She's certainly been a dominant force here. I haven't watched this past season. Does she have the barn burning episode to do it?
Oh God, I to be honest with you about this, I watched part of and I talked to Daniel about this. I watched part of the 4th season, and then at one point in it, I literally said, I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry.
Ooh.
I was like, but for what I heard after that, there was a real creative upswing. So of course I choose the perfect time to give up on something, which my mother can attest to. But that's beside the point. I'm sorry, Mom. But I think she does. I just think it's also on name recognition she gets in, but she always has those particular scenes that always are just clear Emmy bait, and so that's why I just don't. With the Emmys, I'm always more. My usual formula is go with what's actually gotten in or won before, so that's why I have her so high up.
I've seen the whole season, and I think I actually liked Homeland and her character better this season than I ever have before. I've always been sort of up and down with the show, but I don't remember one showstopper. She doesn't have a vest. She doesn't have that episode this year. She does have one where I remember, at one point, like someone is trying to discredit her, and she's drugged, and so she, starts to, or someone messes with her medication, and she starts to go crazy again. But I think it's a lot of hallucinations. I don't remember if there was, as much, showcase kind of bipolar, crying, screaming, yelling kind of emoting. I don't remember if she has that episode this year. But last year I don't remember her having a great episode either. And then when the submissions were revealed and she submitted that season finale, and I watched it over again, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, that is a dynamite submission. So she's all over Homeland. So she probably has a better one than I even realized.
Daniel, keep going here. Robin Wright.
Robin Wright, I have her in second place, but I think I have her in second place for the same reason Charlie has Claire Danes in second place. Just sort of name recognition. She is sort of on a roll. She was nominated the last 2 years. I haven't finished watching the third season of House of Cards, so I don't know what she has, versus some of these other actors. But in terms of who gets in, she is one of the actors I'm most confident is a lock for a nomination, which is, in this category being so stacked, it's that's almost the whole battle right there.
I think she had the goods in season 2 to win. The season 3, where it goes with, as her marriage starts disintegrating, is interesting, but I'm not sure it's over the top enough. I just made a crazy, not so I don't believe so crazy, change in my predictions for drama actress I want to talk about. I'm going with Katrina Balfe, is it, for Outlander? On this theory, I've been it's my guilty pleasure show. I love Outlander, and I've been watching it, and now if you're up on the show, this weekend is the big season finale, and where the cliffhanger left you last week was quite shocking, and we'll find out now. Anyway, it's all really, really good soap opera stuff. But if you look back in this category historically at those unusual nominations, I'm talking about Roma Downey for Touched by an Angel, Jane Seymour, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, Amber Tamblyn for Joan of Arcadia, Patricia Arquette for Medium. These kinds of nominations for shows that get no Emmy love anywhere else, but they're about characters that have a cult following, shows that have a cult following, and characters about female empowerment. This woman fits all of that, and she is an international huge star. I was with her one day at the where was it? Four Seasons Hotel here in Los Angeles, and just there were 50 celebrities there. It was like she was the only one that mattered. The place was just buzzing and swarming in people carrying on about her in terms of fans outside of the hotel. And whenever we put Outlander, as Daniel can tell you, in the headline at Gold Derby, it's traffic just gets stormed. There's a quality of passionate support for the show that I think could be enough to get her that nomination, because there are a lot of competitors here. That kind of drains the support. You need less votes to win. So I'm just kind of having fun with that prediction, thinking, it's possible. That said, Daniel has Michelle Dockery in there. Charlie has Elizabeth Moss we haven't talked about. Let's see who Ralph has. Nobody unusual, but a lot of strong dames, right, Ralph, in this category?
Yeah, there's so many, and one we haven't even mentioned. I know we're not big fans this year, Tom, but Tatiana Maslany, who,
Oh,
is kind of
yes.
like that Outlander nomination you were just talking about right now. I mean, she's been snubbed and snubbed. Last year, when she had her most buzz going, and like you said, she was on the cover of the Emmy magazine. We thought maybe she could pull it off then, and wasn't able to. They're just, and it seems like everybody any 7 people that get into this category, everybody has an episode that they could submit that could win it for them, which is crazy. I mean, it's just a matter of, I hope that they give some off the crazy charts nominations here and there, just because there's so many. You can't really go wrong.
And speaking of off the charts crazy, there's one we haven't talked about, and I think she's sort of like, I put her in my predictions, just sort of playing with it at one point. I put her, took her out of it eventually, and I might put her back in, but Gillian Anderson in The Fall. I really, she has the Emmy track record. The Emmys love her. The Fall doesn't have the most buzz necessarily, but it's a Netflix show. As soon as Emmy voters are done watching like Orange is the New Black, they're gonna have like a little pop-up thing on their screen that says you might be interested in The Fall. And so, I mean, that sort of thing could it could get more exposure than we realize. And she has episodes to win, so I would not. I would not necessarily rule her out, even though I'd say, the fact that the show has such a low profile makes her an underdog. But I think Gillian Anderson could sort of bump that up, just the fact that, who she is and who she's been at the Emmys.
This is why we have to have 10 nominees in all of these categories. This is ridiculous. There are all these worthy contenders, and this 6 or 7, the vacillating that the Emmys do, and then 5 in other categories is ludicrous. Pick a number. Everybody has a top 10 list for everything, so that should be it. Look, in the old days when the Emmys were held at the Shrine Auditorium and there were seats for only 5,000 people, I get it. But the Emmys are now held at the Nokia. You could have 50 nominees in every category and have them invite all their relatives, and there's enough seats for everybody. And that's one of the concerns about, we can't possibly have more nominees. When you get into the Oscars, they only have 3,000 plus seats over there at the Dolby Theater. So, of course, you've got 6,000 Academy members. You can't even get the Academy members in there, plus the nominees, plus the studio chiefs, plus everybody else. So it's understandable why they're trying to constantly restrict the number of categories, especially for the Oscars, because they end up all of them on the air. Not so at the Emmys. They have the Shmemmys. They can push other things off. They just should stop this nonsense. Come the day I rule Hollywood Showbiz Awards, I'm going to fix this. That said, we should wrap up here.
Are we your minions in that case?
You're my flying monkeys, okay? How about that?
I'll take it.
All right, thank you, guys. We will reconvene here sometime soon with some other categories. This was fun. I'm going to go now and change all my predictions. Bye-bye.